Your role in systemic change. Sovereignty is not a solo sport. If you have read this far, you have done something rare. You have questioned inheritance. You have examined imprint. You have separated trauma from conditioning. You have chosen what to keep. You have built psychological sovereignty. Now comes the uncomfortable realization. Personal clarity is not the final destination. It is leverage. Because your nervous system does not exist in isolation. It is embedded in networks, family, workplace, community, nation. And what you do with your clarity influences those networks. Subtly, incrementally, persistently. The idea that I'll just work on myself and stay out of politics is seductive. It is also incomplete. Because the systems that shaped you continue shaping others. And sovereignty without contribution risks becoming self-improvement narcissism. Integration should expand outward, not contract inward. The mechanism, how individuals scale repair. Systemic change rarely begins with grand gestures. It begins with micro-corrections. One conversation. One refusal to repeat a harmful narrative. One public acknowledgement of uncomfortable history. One community initiative supported. One biased assumption interrupted. Individual actions scale because culture is cumulative. Norms shift when enough people shift behavior. Media literacy spreads when enough people refuse manipulation. Dialogue normalizes when enough people model it. You are not responsible for fixing your country, but you are responsible for how you participate in it. Participation is imprint in motion. Challenging digital polarization. In the USA and UK, algorithm-driven polarization has hardened narratives. Echo chambers intensify outrage. Outrage sustains engagement. Engagement sustains profit. The system is not neutral. You already know this. The question is whether you act differently because of it. Personal media audits are not symbolic. They are regulatory. When you diversify sources, pause before sharing inflammatory content, or verify claims before reacting, you interrupt amplification. Interruptions accumulate. You can also bring this awareness into community conversations. Not to shame, not to posture, but to ask, where did that information come from? Have we checked alternative perspectives? Dialogue modeled calmly destabilizes outrage. Outrage thrives in reflex. Reflection weakens it. This is not dramatic activism, it is disciplined participation. Advocating cultural reconnection. In Australia, Indigenous-led healing initiatives demonstrate how cultural reconnection stabilizes identity. In Rwanda, community-based reconciliation strengthen cohesion. You do not need to be Indigenous or Rwandan to support repair. You can support survivor-led initiatives financially. You can attend community dialogues. You can educate yourself on local history without defensiveness. You can refuse dismissive narratives. Cultural reconnection restores dignity. When dignity is restored, intergenerational trauma decreases. And when trauma transmission decreases, collective anxiety softens. Repair is not abstract. It is relational. Hybrid advocacy in diaspora contexts. If you are part of a diaspora community, you occupy a unique position. You understand home narratives. You understand host narratives. You can translate. Translation reduces polarization. You can say, in my country of origin, this event is viewed differently. Or, in my host country, this policy carries another meaning. Bridging narratives reduces caricature. Caricature fuels division. Division sustains instability. You are not obligated to defend every aspect of your origin, nor to reject it wholesale. Hybrid advocacy means nuance. Nuance is not weakness. It is maturity. Everyday sovereignty. Systemic change is not limited to public discourse. It shows up in meetings, in parenting, in friendships. If you have integrated restraint and openness, model that balance. If you have integrated scarcity resilience with calm planning, model that. If you have integrated loyalty with boundaries, demonstrate that. Children learn from model behavior more than ideology. Colleagues mirror emotional regulation more than policy memos. When you embody blended values, you shift microculture. Microculture scales. Slowly, but steadily. Strength. Personal agency. Realizing your influence can feel empowering. You are not powerless. You are not merely shaped. You shape. Agency reduces helplessness. Helplessness fuels anxiety. Contribution regulates it. When you act, even in small ways, Your nervous system shifts from passive consumption to active participation. Participation stabilizes identity, blind spot, overwhelm. However, agency can tip into pressure. You cannot solve climate migration alone. You cannot eradicate polarization single-handedly. If sovereignty becomes savior complex, burnout follows. Contribution must be sustainable. Choose one domain: media literacy, local reconciliation, community dialogue, cultural bridging. Consistency matters more than scale. Ripple effects versus pace. Systemic change is slow, painfully slow. You may not see visible results. That does not invalidate impact. Cultural shifts often precede policy shifts. Attitudes soften before institutions reform. Patience is not passivity. It is long-term thinking. If you expect immediate transformation, you will disengage. If you commit to incremental consistency, you will endure. Reduce transmission. When you refuse to repeat inherited bias, transmission weakens. When you refuse to shame vulnerability, emotional norms soften. When you refuse to glorify harmful narratives, identity recalibrates. Transmission requires repetition. Interrupt repetition. Interrupt imprint. Stronger communities. Communities stabilize when individuals regulate. Calm dialogue reduces escalation. Informed discourse reduces misinformation. Empathy reduces fragmentation. You do not need a platform. You need practice, repeatedly, quietly, persistently. Personal fulfillment through contribution. There is a final, less discussed benefit. Contribution expands meaning. When identity extends beyond self-optimization into collective repair, purpose deepens. Purpose buffers anxiety. Purpose integrates sovereignty with responsibility. Without contribution, sovereignty risks stagnation. With contribution, it matures. Personal manifesto exercise. Write 3 to 5 commitments. Specific, behavioral. Examples. I will audit my media consumption monthly and diversify perspectives. I will support one culturally restorative initiative each year. I will initiate at least one nuanced dialogue about history in my social circle annually. I will model emotional regulation in conflict rather than escalate. I will question inherited assumptions before repeating them. Then add accountability, calendar reminders, community partners, public declarations if appropriate. Commitment without structure dissolves. Structure sustains intent. The provocative reality: you are already influencing the system. Through silence, through speech, through what you amplify, through what you ignore. Neutrality is participation. Passivity shapes culture as much as activism. If that statement feels heavy, good. Weight signals responsibility. But responsibility does not require grandiosity. It requires integrity. Closing reflection. Ask yourself, if everyone in my country behaved the way I do, online, in conversations, in conflict, what would the national nervous system feel like? More anxious? More polarized? More calm? More thoughtful? That answer is your mirror. Systemic change begins in micro-behavior. Micro-behavior accumulates. Accumulation reshapes culture. Culture reshapes imprint. And imprint shapes future generations. You cannot control everything. But you are not irrelevant. You are a node in a network. And networks shift when nodes shift. Sovereignty is not escape from society. It is conscious participation within it. The arc of this book began with origin. It ends with authorship. Not only of your mind, but of your contribution. And contribution, when deliberate, becomes legacy. Choose carefully. Because imprint does not stop with you unless you interrupt it, or refine it, or elevate it. The choice is not theoretical, it is daily. And it is yours.